Hi, I'm going to explain some of these interface. As I mentioned in class, these are your tools and these remain the same, and this area changes according to the tabs on top. So your tabs are here, and you can see that you have the create tab, you have modify tab, you have multiply tab, you have detail tab. So these three are very important, and then you have what you call layer tab and view tab, which is also important. So we may skip the middle tabs over there. So you can see that if I go to modify, this area changes, and create tab, this area changes. Then you have the viewport, you have the four viewport. You have the top viewport, you have the back viewport, you have the front and perspective viewport. And then on these areas you'll find that there are some buttons. So in order for you to have a perspective viewport, you go to the second one with your left mouse button and click and hold, and you get a perspective viewport. These are called orthographic viewport or orthogonal view, and this is called a perspective view. So there are other ways of looking at your objects. When you have an object, you can look at as a wireframe, and then you have colored wireframe, then you have shade frame, flat frame. So there are many ways of looking at an object. I'll give an example. Say I click on and make a box. So the first thing that you do is you click hold with your left mouse button and drag, and then you go to the bottom part and click hold left mouse button and raise it up, and then you can see that it comes and becomes an object. Right now when you have this orange tickers, you'll see that they are not activated, they are just chosen. So to activate it, you press the space bar. So you can zoom in and zoom out with the magnifying glass with the left mouse button, click, hold and drag. You can move it around with this icon here. You can move your left mouse button and drag it. And then in the perspective mode, you can see that I can rotate it in different direction. Anytime it goes out of sync or out of the viewport, you press A to center it, and then you can go in here with the magnifying glass and drag it with your left mouse button to zoom out, and you drag to the right to zoom in. This one is kind of a solo mode, so I can click on that and go and make that into a solo mode. If you click it back, it goes into the quad view. The quad view means a four viewport. So you can get a single viewport, you can get a quad viewport. Any of these will be, can be changed into a solo viewport or single viewport. So like I said, you have different ways of looking at your object. It can be totally wireframe where you just see through it. Then it can be colored wireframe, which gives it a blue kind of a line. Then you have hidden lines, and then you have what you call sketch mode, which gives a surface to it. So in most of the cases, you'll be really looking at what you call wireframe mode or color wireframe mode. So let's look at what you call within the wireframe mode and color wireframe mode. You also have something called texture. So there are three things which are important here. One is that you have the line, which is also called the edge. Then you have the surface, which is called the plane, and you have the volume, which is called the object. So you can see that you can select, and it's also called polygon. Your surface is also called polygon. So right at the bottom, you can see that you can select as a point. Point is just one single object, is called a point. So you can select as a point, or you can select as an edge, or you can select as a polygon. So there are three more and 3 ways of selecting. If you press spacebar, you can go from point to edge to polygon mode. So this is very, very important when you're selecting something and you're trying to modify it in certain ways. So remember that point, edge, and polygon, and by pressing spacebar, you can move around to these different areas. In order to deactivate, you can click anywhere outside over here on the left hand side and you can deactivate it. So there are many ways of selecting. You can select whether you're on, say you're on polygon, you can select the whole polygon. If you're on the edge, you can just select the edge. You can also hold shift and select different edges. And if you're on the point mode, you can go and hold the right mouse button, click, hold, and drag, and select the different points. You can also do the same thing if you're on the edge mode. Say I click out, deselect it, and with my right mouse button, click, hold, and drag all around it. It will select the whole, all the edges. Same thing with polygon. You can go directly here and select it. Say I deselect it, and then I can go in and select with the right mouse button. So these are some of the basic parameters and ways of selecting, deselecting, or creating an object. So let me delete this by pressing delete button. Let me show you again. Make sure you're on the zoom in mode. You can drag it down with your left mouse button. Click, hold, and drag with your left mouse button. And you see that by activating it by pressing the space bar. So you have created an object. You also have something called layer, and layer is controlled by the numerical pad on the top, not on your right side. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see different layers you're going. So how do you modify? So modify is where you can move something. You can click on there and move it around. You can rotate it. I can click here and rotate. Your rotation is based on where you put your cursor. So for example, I can always undo by Command Z or Apple Z. If I click here and rotate, it will rotate in a certain way. If I click here and rotate, it will be a different way of rotating. So let me do it from here. So if I click here and rotate, it will rotate in a different way. So if I click here and rotate, so you can see over here that it is rotating in a different way. So it rotates on an axis, or there is an origin, point of origin, which is also called the pivot point. You can stretch and make it bigger or smaller. You can make it bigger or smaller. And size is that when it proportionally expands from all sides. That is the use of size. Hope that helps, and I'll slowly show you the details and other tabs and the modifier.